What's up, y'all? It's Zell with Zell Media here. Today we're going to talk about chapter 1030, the permanence echoing through all things. I'm sorry the upload was late. Oda killed me, so I was away for a few chapters. Our cover story this week is Brook with some army ants marching at his feet. I love it. Halloween, obviously, Brook is going to be the one who's featured. On top of that, I like that the army ants are there. It kind of gives us a symbolic message about Brook and his past. Obviously, it's not something that we often bring up, seeing as most of the time we just remember his past with the Rumbar crew. But he also was a soldier in the past. And so having that little touch, I think it really speaks to just how well fleshed out Oda's characters are. So we start this week off with Drake and Apu having a chat. Apu is offering Drake the ability to come with him and claim either Kaido or Luffy's head post Wano after the aftermath falls out. They think it's going to be Kaido. I don't think many people have faith that Luffy's going to win, with the exception of the fan base, obviously, because one, it's a shonen manga, but two, Kaido's Kaido. So everyone's still kind of not believing it. He offers Drake the ability to join him and the three numbers, which is kind of surprising as they've been hidden this whole time, and it turns out that they were just with Apu. He offers that position. Drake turns him down pretty straightforwardly. He doesn't trust Apu, which Apu kind of retorts, yeah, I don't know if you get to go calling people trustworthy or untrustworthy around here, seeing as Drake's past does play into that exact pattern, and we had Jinbei call him out on it earlier in this arc. However, what's more important is the controversy that begins right after this panel, where we see that Kinemon is not actually dead. Neither is Kiku or Kanjuro for that matter. Orochi, we knew he wasn't dead. We saw that a couple of chapters ago. I think it was like 1027. We see his head peeking out, so we know he's not dead. But all of them, even though it looked like they were dead, they're not. This is One Piece. It is what it is. You know, I feel like death would be a useful tool, but Oda has his own beliefs, and that's all we can do about it. But Kinemon's back up and running. Usopp recognizes Kinemon almost immediately, and Nami and him draw together, or Nami draws the crescent moon on his side, allowing him to recognize that it is a friend of the rebellion, and Usopp takes off with Hamlet to go help him out, or to go help Kinemon and Kiku out. In the meantime, we get panels back to the situation unfolding with those samurai, and we find out how it was that Kinemon is still alive. Apparently, when Kaido stabbed him through the gut, he stabbed him exactly where he was reattached. It was put in the story that he was reattached by the Straw Hat, so it wasn't like he was reattached by Law himself. But this has never come up before, so it kind of just feels like an ass pull, to be completely honest. But again, it's One Piece. It's Oda's story. He's going to do with it what he may, and we're along for the ride. But Kinemon was reattached, and then we find that Kanjuro is also alive, and Orochi is talking to him, and Orochi tells him to, strike the fire that's left of the Kurozumi and bring the castle down. And so Kanjuro, with the last of his strength, he's still not dead, but it is what I would presume the last action we'll see Kanjuro do in this entire story, is to set ablaze. He drew a blazing figure, much like the figure that he was outlined as when he was a child, called Kazunbo, and it's going to act a lot like Smiley did back in Punk Hazard, and it's just going to be a feature that's driving everybody to a certain place, burning the castle down as he goes, which also makes it harder for Yamato to do her job in the moment. It's here that we get to see our cuts to each and every individual character remaining. We start off with Momo, or actually, we start off with Brooke and Robin, who are currently running away. They've dropped old cause and fighting. Brooke states this. It's more efficient for them just to get away than to continue trying to fight the beast pirates. Then we get a panel of CP0 actually finally leaving their invincible anteroom, which is awesome. Hopefully, we get to see a conflict with them in the performance stage, as if they could be dealt with now as opposed to after Wano, it would give us a little bit more time to have that party, which would be nice. Then we move on to Momo, who is actually forming clouds. He's just not able to completely control them and swirl them the way that Kaido has. So he's figuring it out. He really is. And I think what will happen is it'll be halfway to dropping before he actually does figure it out completely. Not only will that give us the dramatic finish that we were expecting, but it also gives the citizens the ability to see that it's Odin's kid holding it up, the same way Odin had presented the entirety of Wano with his feet. So too will Momonosuke. We then move from Momonosuke and we get panels of Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro. Luffy seeming to have just come off another Boro breath attack against him, as Kaido has foam coming out of his mouth, and, well, not foam, smoke. And Zoro and Sanji clashing with their counterparts. We then move on to Yamato, who's huffing and out of breath as she is trying to get towards where she needs to be to disable the bombs, which I think was stated as basement floor level 2. At which point she is then halted by an Ikoku sovereignty coming through the staircase that she was just about to run to, as Eustace Kid's arm gets blown out of it. And then we get the most intriguing part of the chapter, which is Kid's and Law's awakening. I did call this in the last chapter. I did say that, there is one thing that would make them more on par with Luffy, which would be awakening. Obviously, as we get to learn this, at this point, it's not something that they could have used at the start because it takes up too much stamina, which Law's already got a problem with, Luffy's already got a problem with, right? And I think we did focus really hard for Luffy on Haki, which is how he extends his abilities outside of his Devil Fruit. Whereas with these two, I imagine they didn't have, the King of the Pirates' right hand to teach them all about Haki. So they learned what they could of it on their own. And what they couldn't learn, they just worked hard to improve their Devil Fruits. And I think that's what led to them having an awakening. I think Luffy had more hard battles with Haki, and that's why he's so, far and beyond where the rest of the supernova are. But the top tier of the supernova all had extremely extensively hard battles with their Devil Fruits. I would say Law and Kid would be included in that batch the most, and that forced them to learn to adapt with it. And I think that's what gave them their awakenings. We then get to see their awakenings. I preferred Kid's because I like the ability to assign. It just seems like it's more useful than the Anastasia. Obviously, the Anastasia helps because it bypasses hard defenses, which is definitely something that Law needed, because before he cut Virgo in half, this was something that was a problem for him. Obviously, he did cut Virgo in half, and so his ability has gotten better, but I would say it's still just Virgo he cut in half, and if he were going up against someone like a Cracker, for example, maybe he would have a bit more of a struggle with that. And so it was definitely needed that he get that skill. So it was useful for him. And same thing with Kid. I think the assign was perfect for him. Essentially, what ends up happening is Kid and Law have a flashback to last chapter, what we didn't get on screen. And Kid had asked Law, odd that Kid's provoking it, but Kid had asked Law if his fruit had awakened as well as Kid suspected. And Law had said yes, except it just drains too much stamina, so he couldn't use it. And then once he did, he would be completely out of the battle. Kid says, cover me, and they both use their awakenings, and that's what we experience. Kid assigns Big Mom as a magnet, and then every piece of metal in Onigashima starts getting drawn towards her. Obviously, there's a radius to this, so I imagine it's probably in and around 100 feet, but it is drawing metal towards her, and the walls that she had just busted through collapse in on her after Law had given her the anesthesia, as she was definitely going to drop Kid if she hit him with that second attack. And then Law switches them out with some rocks, I presume, and they fall to safety with Big Mom buried in rubble. We don't know what's going to happen moving forward, but that is where we end the chapter. So, as we can imagine, for me, it's going to be pretty hard to choose a chapter MVP. I did like what Apu did. I thought it was very characteristic of him, and I really did like the exploration of the fruits for Law and Kid. But I think my chapter MVP goes to Usopp for this week, solely because I think what's about to happen is going to completely shift Usopp's perspective, which will be very needed for when he goes to Elbaf. I think Usopp doesn't really understand how little he's played a part in Wano quite yet. Obviously, he's been helpful with turning the tides of the war, but he didn't really have a battle against Page One that was handled for him. And obviously, that's not necessarily something that he's going to be upset with, because he didn't know how he was going to beat Page One. But once he gets to where they are, Kinemon's been cut in half, and it was covered in blood, and Usopp noted that in this chapter. Kiku's been arm cut off and cut to shit as well. So he's gonna notice that these people are really putting their lives on the line to sacrifice for the success of this raid, and these are people that he likes and cares about to some extent. And I think that it'll set him up for a realization that once he gets to Elbaf, he's got to change how much he runs away. Because even with earlier in the arc, he was just telling Nami, "Hey, you could just lie," right? And what's so interesting about the samurai is that no, there's no lie. It's we do this or we die, and so that's why I guess we love them as fans, but also why it's important that Usopp is the one who returns Kinemon to his or Kinemon's legs to his body. So that's my chapter MVP. Overall chapter rating, guys, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It was a beautiful chapter all throughout. The main issue I have with it is still Oda not killing characters. I didn't expect Kinemon to die. I have no problems with the fact that he's still alive. I thought it was explained in a way that was acceptable. I just really wish Oda would, when he takes the time to fake kill a character, leave him dead. There's a handful of characters throughout the story that if they had remained dead, it wouldn't have really changed much. But again, this is a shonen manga, and Oda has his way of telling the story, and that's the way that we're going to get the story. I don't think getting upset about that is going to change the story anytime soon. So that's my rating for this week, is going to be 7 out of 10. Everything else in the chapter was amazing. We got, panels of Marco and Izo and what the other Straw Hats are up to. We got to see the CP0 get on the move. and then of course we got to find out more about Devil Fruit Awakenings. There's lots to talk about for Devil Fruit Awakenings, and I've seen many videos that have come up about it. So feel free to take a look at them, and maybe I'll be dropping something about them soon. Probably not this week, maybe next week. Alright guys, have a great day. This is Zell Media, and I'm out.